guys, welcome back. I'm here with another episode. Again, I want to share a little bit about my current journey. There is so much going on in my head, as I said last time. I wanted to actually talk you through today my actual, like a journey as a mom, 2 years postpartum, how this whole process looked like from obviously being pregnant, giving birth, early postpartum recovery, how I got myself into point that I knew I'm ready to do bodybuilding prep. Because let's be honest, it's obviously not an easy decision. It was not decision from overnight, and there were obviously huge key players that I had to consider and really make sure like I'm in a good position to do something like this. Yeah, and there has been a lot of guilt, to be fair, because I'm someone who was over years trying to really feel my body, do everything for my health, for my performance, getting strong, eating well. And now currently I'm 2 weeks out and I'm taking my body through a huge, obviously, stress, very strict diet that it's obviously not forever, but I definitely can see and feel how it's affecting my body, and that it's definitely not healthy. But also, I see a lot of kind of things. I have the understanding because I went through these kind of issues and like dieting lifestyle in my 20s. I have experience with disordered eating habits. I have experience with, body dysmorphia. Now, when I actually go through diet with different mindset, with completely different experience, being in completely different position with my health, I can understand way better what I did wrong back then. It's not just about me, it's also see women in general, because I work with women mainly and I see women struggling constantly with the same things. And most of the time, let's be honest, it's related to obviously dieting. We are all kind of diet culture. We don't know how to eat. One thing that kind of led me to where I am as a coach to work with specifically pregnant and postpartum moms is really being someone who can support these women on their journeys, and how important it is to really take care of yourself and prioritize completely different things than before you were pregnant. Because the position I am right now, that I'm doing actually bodybuilding show, didn't happen just because I was lucky or whatever. It came with huge, obviously, process throughout the whole years, from pre-pregnancy, pregnancy, early postpartum. Everything I did was with only one purpose: to be in the best position with my health, with my well-being, make sure I'm strong, I'm healthy, I'm progressing in the gym. So I actually had to earn the right to be in a position and do something like prep. Yeah. And right now, I'm still 2 years postpartum. It's still early postpartum. Like, your body is still kind of recovering. Let's be honest, like, even though I had my period back on track already a few months, regulated, everything perfect, it's still, very close to postpartum, to give birth, and you go straight into some kind of complete hormonal roller coaster. Because, for example, I don't have my period at the moment. I lost my period already almost 3 months ago. So you can see how intense, how much stress this prep can put on your body. And that's something I didn't understand before. Like, I lost my period when I was younger, when I was in my 20s, for over 4 years. And I thought I'm living healthy lifestyle. I was training, I was eating super clean and healthy. But now I can see how easy it is as a female to, mess yourself up. And the nutrition is super important part that I'm super passionate about. Yeah. And I can clearly see how easy it is for you as a woman to really slip into some kind of health issues, and let's be honest, every second woman has some issues, yeah, that are related to your hormonal health, menstrual cycle, weight loss, fat loss, progress, whatever it is, fertility, it's more common than we think. So really want to share with you how I got into bodybuilding prep, what I did, how was the whole process, because again, it's not overnight thing, yeah. And even now, when I'm actually 2 weeks out, people who don't know nothing about bodybuilding sometimes asking me now, like, how is my training going? How long I'm been doing this, and how many shows I'm been doing? And when I say like, yeah, I'm doing 2 shows, because obviously if I could, I would do more, but I do just shows that are in the country. My training and my prep, the hard work has been done. I'm now in the final few weeks when I'm really just digging into the diet and revealing all the hard work, because I was training specifically for this competition for a year. And they're like, what do you mean over a year? Like, I was like, yeah, whole last year, everything I did, the training and nutrition, was to prepare for this competition. It's not overnight. It's not easy, yeah. And that's another thing, like, women kind of think, what we hear a lot as a coach is women saying like, I'm afraid to build too much muscle too quickly, I don't want to look too muscular. It's not a thing, trust me. It's freaking long process, it's freaking hard process. Since pre-pregnancy, I've been always training with the bodybuilding style of training, yeah. Like, I love this lifestyle. I always did. I was always kind of in this environment. I wanted to prep 10 years ago, and then I wanted to prep before I got pregnant. So I had good foundation. So I know how to train. I learned how to train towards building the muscle, building the physique. And then obviously over the years, I was building that relationship with my food, learning how to eat more. When I started to eat more, I suddenly saw a huge shift in my physique, and that was exactly prior to my pregnancy, when I started to work actually with coach for 3 months. And I went through first, again, 3 months, very short off season, when I started to build my calories. And it was really first time when I went into actual surplus, manageable meal plan, surplus macros, and I saw a huge change in my physique. Like, over 3 months, my body changed so much just from eating more and well. But then I got pregnant, which I didn't plan, and the whole journey turned upside down. I also very frustrated because I was really in it, I was excited. And then I got pregnant, and I knew my training will change, my goals will change. I had no idea if I ever will be able to come back to it. As someone who always was interested in pregnancy training, I had that qualification already. I started to really learn more about it, really shifting first in my mindset during pregnancy, knowing and understanding that my training will change, my training will be different. I need to focus on different things, and that was mainly to maintain strength, maintain pain-free, prepare for birth, learn more about my body, protect my core, pelvic floor, and train for fun because I can, because again, many moms, unfortunately, which is always breaking my heart, have, for example, negative experience with pregnancy. Many moms can't train because they have some risky pregnancy. Thank God I was able to switch my mindset quite early. I started to really enjoy pregnancy training. I was training until the end of my pregnancy. After very last few days, I was lifting weights. It was something that helped me. At the same time, it was something that helped me with energy levels. And then the postpartum came. Postpartum was a completely different story. So throughout my pregnancy, I basically tried to prepare for birth itself. Yeah, I tried to really mentally, physically, emotionally prepare for birth. In terms of nutrition, to be fair, my nutrition was the worst ever when I was pregnant, because I had huge, obviously, changes in my appetite, but I was trying just to eat properly. I was making sure I'm eating enough protein, that was for sure. But again, I had such a different changes in my appetite that I was craving a lot of carbs. I was eating a lot of carbs. My priority was protein and some kind of variety. But I, for example, struggled with eating vegetables, that I always liked to eat vegetables. But during pregnancy, it was really just like a plain beige foods, But anyway, when I gave birth, that was the real deal. Like, postpartum was wow. I was like, what a fuck. My body felt so different, despite really keep training till the last, few days and really doing what I could to maintain my strength and fitness. When I gave birth, I felt in bits, like everywhere, not just down there, everywhere. I felt so weak. The strength was gone. And it was something I wasn't prepared for. Yeah. But again, I had some kind of resources as being coach and educated myself. So I had some kind of structure. I know what to do first, how to start. And even though it was obviously, it was scary, it was new, it was frustrating, I gave myself, all respect, kindness to my body for what it went through. I didn't rush through my postpartum. I didn't have any crazy timelines. I just kept everything. Let's see how it's going. I'm not setting any expectations for myself. And I really dive very deeply into that rehab. And it was something I definitely see. It was a huge benefit that completely transformed the way of training, the how I progressed, how I recovered, because I was very strict with the rehab, doing the pelvic floor rehab, core rehab, start slowly, breath work, start to be really body aware, with every movement, not just in the gym doing exercises, but during day, how I stand, how I picking up my baby, how I carry my baby, really taking care of my posture. These all of the things reflect, that's why we strength train. You strength train for life, you don't strength train to, look good. That's just byproduct, to be fair. Started to, go to the gym early. And again, like, even though I was in the gym 3 weeks postpartum and I felt guilty because people were telling me like, what are you doing? Like, you are crazy or mad, you're doing too much. It wasn't like I would be pushing myself. Firstly, as I said multiple times, and I always say that, for me, gym is my space when I can zone out, when I can clear my head. It's my happy place. So why I wouldn't go there? If I started to go to the gym quite early, and again, like every time, of the first weeks and months were super humbling. I'm telling you, I remember when I started to do my first back squats. I had empty bar and I had zero coordination. Like, my core was so weak. I was shaking. It was every single exercise I did was like I'm learning it again. I've never done it before. Everything felt so different. So yes, I was training super early, but I was really taking my time to go gradually adding exercises, overloading week by week, day by day, based on how I felt. I didn't rush it. I just did everything properly, exactly how I now teach it my postpartum clients. um, and again, I see they progressing the same way. I really trying to make every mom have that strong foundation and use this postpartum experience as something that really teaches them about their body, because to me, this early postpartum was a huge catalyst to improving my performance and everything, like really learning how to train completely differently, be self-aware. It was very hard journey, obviously, but I'm super grateful for it. At the end of the day, it was actually very enjoyable. So I started obviously gradually back to the gym, and I started to do CrossFit because I always wanted to try CrossFit. And when I was pregnant, you suddenly can't do so many things. And I felt really sad. When I was pregnant, I actually signed up for Turf Games, and I did Turf Games when I was 14 weeks pregnant, which is competition, heavy lifting, cardio. And again, it's 3 years ago, and I remember back then I was judged. I didn't get very much support from people. I was very discouraged, to point that I actually felt really ashamed that I did the competition. I felt really bad about myself. Even the judges at the competition, they kind of told me I have nothing to do there. Like, and today I'm glad that this is kind of shifting a little bit. We're starting to see more pregnant women taking part in these competitions and people cheering up of them. So I'm glad that this stigma is changing. But when I was pregnant, it was a big no. I was weird. I was completely misunderstood. And then again, I signed up for High Rocks, but I was already, almost in my third trimester back then, and we had baby moon, so I didn't do the high rocks, but I suddenly saw like how many things I wanted to do and I couldn't. So I said, after I give birth, I'm gonna try to do something I always wanted to do. So I started to do CrossFit, and it was actually a really nice postpartum experience as well, because I joined the gym after I don't know how many years. I joined group classes, nice social part as well, and I could really see that firstly, all the rehab I did paid off really well over there, because I obviously started to build a lot of like strength, gymnastic, cardio. I started to do impact, CrossFit workouts, very intense. But I could see on myself, being 3 months postpartum, that I was in really good shape, in a really good level, despite obviously not feeling that way comparing to other people. It was something new, I was learning Olympic lifting, gymnastics, and it was a great addition to, my postpartum training. It was really enjoyable. I loved every single session there, every single training. Definitely, I'm coming back to CrossFit someday when I finish my bodybuilding prep. Again, like I just, didn't have any expectations. I just enjoyed the movement really in a completely different way. At this time when I was doing CrossFit, I was breastfeeding. It was also a huge thing I had to be aware of, because this kind of moves me to nutrition part. I always love to learning about nutrition, yeah. And as I said, I had issues. I had eating disorders from a very young age. I was like 12 years old. I was dieting with girls at school. I was, abusing fat burners all the time. I had really bad relationship with food. Probably like 8 years ago, when I was in England on my own, I was studying there, and I was, the loneliness, it kind of put me into a huge spiral of binge eating and overtraining, and a very bad place mentally. It was a year process of working on my relationship with food, to really like acknowledging the things, where I am, what's the issue, why is that, and slowly like reframing everything, learning how to fuel my body for training. And as I said, before my pregnancy, I started to eat surplus, and I saw how my physique is changing. And I obviously understood how the nutrition is important, especially when I was postpartum. I wanted to make sure that my body is in a good place. So for me, postpartum, because my appetite was back, I really made sure that I'm eating enough and properly. Because I was breastfeeding, I was definitely eating way more in calorie surplus. So most of my diet were nutrient dense foods. I loved, and I love still, I'm this kind of bowl person. Yeah. I don't need complicated recipes. I just need, my protein, my carbs, my healthy fats, veggies, make the plate colorful. I was eating a lot. I was recovering really well during the postpartum. I was breastfeeding for a full year without no issues, because I always made sure I'm eating a lot. And again, when you are breastfeeding, you kind of, breastfeeding is demand process. When I was pumping or breastfeeding, my baby needed to eat more. When he was growing up, like I started to feel I need to breastfeed more. Then I got more hungrier, so I need to make sure I'm eating enough. For me, really, nutrition was on point. I tried to make sure I really eat enough, and I wasn't worried about quantities, calorie counting. For me, the priority was the nutrient density. Postpartum, you are super depleted. It's a huge shift in hormonal changes. After giving birth, you go through so much stress, sleep deprivation. So really 80%, 85, 90% of my diet were very nice, healthy, but super tasty foods. And then again, like, because my appetite was back, we had takeaway once, twice a week. I wasn't really making a big deal of it. I just love to eat well, and really had that flexibility, and it was a huge thing, like, to really supporting me. I never struggled with like energy levels. Obviously I was sleep deprived, but again, like when I was sleep deprived, I made sure twice more that I eat properly that day, because when you are sleep deprived, you have cravings, you are more tired. And that's when many moms fail, because they are sleep deprived, and then all they eat are some kind of bites, snacks, leftovers. Most moms I work with, they actually struggling to eat real food. Yeah, they're worried about eating actual plate, and then they, instead of like mindlessly snacking, biting things, leftovers, ending up with same calories but half of the nutrients. Yeah. So this is my philosophy about nutrition. This is how I kind of put myself into really good spot. And again, I was eating in surplus, I was breastfeeding, and then when I was 9 months postpartum, I started to work with my coach. When I did first 8-week diet, 9 months postpartum. It was first diet after 6 years or something like that. And it wasn't really diet. Like I was dieting on 2000, 1900 calories, something like that. It was really just clearing up a little bit my diet, adjusting the macros. I was obviously tracking, so I was like I was more aware, having a little bit more structure. And because I was in a great position after years of obviously building the relationship, food, and eating enough and eating a lot during my postpartum, focusing on building muscle, getting strength, eating a lot, I was in such a good place that I lost good amount of weight. I got lean very nicely on very high calories. Obviously, I saw, okay, I'm feeling fine. I lost weight. I'm in good position. I stopped breastfeeding eventually at 1 year postpartum exactly. So that was another reason why I didn't push such a strict calorie deficit, which I think many moms do as well. They either using breastfeeding as a thing to lose weight, or they kind of don't eat enough and they struggle with actual breastfeeding and they don't, finish their breastfeeding journey as they would like to. Uh, so I was at the point around 9, 10 months postpartum. I felt deep inside that my breastfeeding journey will not last, for example, another year. So I was really like aiming for those 12 months, and I was slowly decreasing my calories. I was slowly stopping down the breastfeeding, moving into pumping as well a little bit, building my stash at the end. And then I stopped breastfeeding, which again comes with a lot of changes in terms of hormonal shifts. So I finished my 8-week diet, lost some weight, got quite nice and lean, and I went to a reverse diet. So I was starting to build my calories back up, which was actually a really good way because again, like after breastfeeding, you still kind of needed kind of support. And again, even though I did 8-week diet, it was very nice body recomposition on nice moderate calories. It wasn't strict calorie deficit like I'm doing right now when I'm in the prep. All these kind of the process I really took myself through with very mindful approach to my health and well-being, and really taking care of my body as postpartum mom has led me to get my menstrual cycle 1 month after I stopped breastfeeding. Since then, the whole year, my menstrual cycle was regular 30 days, apart from my second period, and then one period was a little bit earlier. Apart from that, the whole year, I was able to get my menstrual cycle regular, which was a huge win. It was a huge sign that my body is recovering well, my body is in a good spot, and I took the rest of the year, rest of the 2025, I took with committing to actual off season. So I went to calorie surplus again, and this is something that probably most mom would struggle with, and women in general, because I lost all my pregnancy weight in after that 8-week diet, but in a matter of months, when I get into my off season, I gained all my weight back. I was really back on my post birth weight, and I even didn't think about it. I was really like, okay, I'm committing now to off season. I knew that I already understood how the nutrition is important, and I understood that it's not easy to build a muscle. And I understood that I'm still postpartum. I need that food. I need that fuel. I need to build that solid foundation. For me, even though I've been waiting myself since pregnancy, again, that's another part of the journey before, like how I build a healthy relationship with scales, because many women can't step on scale because they still think the number means something related to who they are, even without understanding actually the fluctuations. And I've been waiting myself since pregnancy. I had no issues to see myself coming back up to my post-birth weight. I got myself into healthy position. I was training. My training went into amazing kind of levels. I never felt so strong, had great energy. Let's still keep reminding that I had little boy, toddler, not even 2 years old. He was two just now. So there are still things, routine were changing, sleep was changing, everything was still constantly changing, but being in a good position, taking care of the sleep, taking care of my well-being, having nutrition, eating well, supporting my body throughout this whole was really the key part. I'm such a nerd about nutrition. I love to talk about it. I love educate my clients on it. I love to support my mom clients because it makes so much difference when you really start to think about it a different way. If you're a mom, if you're pregnant, if you're postpartum, you need to start thinking about nutrition completely different way that when you were 20. Yeah, we have to say fuck off to diet culture. It doesn't work this way anyway. You can try as hard as you can, but if you're a postpartum mom and you're pushing too hard without actually understanding what you should do, you're just trying to eat less and move more, you're not helping yourself. You just setting yourself up for, failure. 2025 was year of getting my first short diet and going to my actual multiple months of season calorie surplus, gaining all back my weight that I lost after pregnancy. Yeah, I decided I'm in a good spot. I'm ready. I want to commit to the prep. As I said in my last episode or mentioned a few times when I was talking about my journey, there were obviously a few factors that were behind the decision when I said, okay, I'm gonna do bodybuilding prep. It was first obviously life situation. When I am right now, I knew the last whole year and this kind of first half of this year, I had nothing going on important that would really affected my routine, my priorities, going to the prep train and manage everything. Over last year, I knew I'm in a good health spot. I'm recovering well since postpartum. I had my cycle. I felt well. Nutrition was taken care of. I didn't get any injuries. I didn't have any pelvic floor dysfunction symptoms. Obviously, the last year was also all about to setting that routine again. So even though I obviously been living this lifestyle, training and everything, last year was really about making sure I can commit to 4 sessions per week, making sure I can meal prep, making sure I can track my food as well. And again, it was also changing. Like my baby was weaning off, so then we started to give him solids, and that's how I was kind of managing everything around with the meal prep, how to cook for myself, for a family, make it easier, make sure that we all eat kind of same foods but eating nice way, and it worked. It wasn't an issue at all, to be fair, in terms of nutrition. But yeah, the really whole last year was about to make sure I can stick to the routine. That's why I took the full year, and I knew I'm in a good spot. I knew I can commit. I knew I can train consistently. I knew definitely that I can train on my own and well. I'm confident with how I train in the gym. I'm now super excited. I'm 2 weeks out. It went super fast, the prep. It was 20 weeks since 1st December. Now it's 14th of April. So I'm 2 weeks out. It was tough. Obviously, the prep was completely different level. There were a lot of, I was scared, obviously, because now in the prep you can't step away from your routine. And don't get me wrong, I had many slip-ups, whether it's nutrition. We got all sick recently as well, which was super stressful, and I was 2 months away from my competition. It was very frustrating because I got super stressed. I felt probably the worst ever since a really long time in terms of my well-being. I felt really burned out, and I had to pull something out from myself and manage things a little bit better, take a step away from things that are not super important, take care of myself, take care of, focus on being a mom, present mom, taking care of sick child, myself. We survived, we learned, and now it's really like a final push. I have last week really of now digging deep into calorie deficit, completing my hard sessions, my cardio, and next week we landing to peak week. I'm not gonna lie, I now definitely can feel the effect of calorie deficit, and to be fair, it comes with a little bit of guilt because over last years, as I'm now explaining the whole process how I got into bodybuilding prep being early postpartum. It came with a little bit of guilt because everything I do, even as a coach, what I preach is now completely opposite. Bodybuilding prep is extreme, is not healthy. I can definitely feel a huge effect on myself, my health. But at the same time, I can really like have the deeper understanding, really looking back on myself when I was younger, when I was dieting, when I was really in a bad place with relationship with food and training and progress and everything. I can really see why. I can see that also from perspective as being coach, working with moms and women in general who's struggling with things like snacking, overeating, binge eating, negative relationship with themselves, with food, and it all comes down to the approach that you take. Yeah, you really need to switch from eating less, doing more. You need to fuel yourself to train well, and then the physique will follow. The physique reflecting your habits and how your body is doing physically, mentally, emotionally. To experience the peak week and the show, I'm super excited. It was extremely hard. It is extremely hard. I'm not gonna lie, but at the same time, it was definitely worth it. It's not something that it's for everyone, but it's doable, and it's really a huge experience for myself as a coach, as a mom, and definitely can't wait go back to prioritize my health and do again all the things I always did over last few years to making sure I have energy again, I'm feeling strong, definitely can feel how the diet, the calorie deficit now long term for over 17-18 weeks is affecting me in a way. I'm feeling super tired, fatigued, irritated, moody, huge food noise. Like normally moms struggling with that binge eating. I can't do that. And I'm not saying I didn't slip off my diet. I'm definitely had times and moments when I had something I'm not supposed to had. I build those skills when I know what to do to move on, and definitely don't let it like shift into that fuck it moment that many moms experience. I have this conversation all the time like, oh, I just had a fuck it moment, I just got stressed and I just overate. Yeah, and I've been this in these situations daily. I'm feeling so stressed and I want to just, you don't know how many times I found myself in that moment when I'm like, oh, like normally I would just go and eat something, but now I can't. Don't think that I'm perfect. My diet sometimes being messy. How many times I ate 2 meals at once, or I had my last meal at 4 p.m. and couldn't eat for the rest of the day. Multiple times. It's a learning curve. I'm very proud of myself, and like I always say, if I can be here inspiration for at least one mom into doing the hard things but the right way, with the right approach, with having right coach, for example, it's my mission accomplished. Right, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope it gave you some kind of overview like that fitness is journey. It should be kind of your lifestyle. You need to take the right approach for yourself where you are at, especially if you are postpartum mom, for example. I talk to you in the next one, and take care of yourself.